Hank Williams Jr. spent most of the early days of his career living in the giant shadow of his legendary father, Hank Williams Sr., best known for penning country classics like Your Cheatin' Heart and Honky Tonk Blues. Williams Jr. felt a tremendous amount of pressure to imitate his father's signature sound, but he wanted to pave out his own path. It took a bit of struggle, a failed suicide attempt, and an almost fatal accident to set him on a path that would eventually allow him to express his own boldly unique musical vision. Join Facts Verse as we take a look back on this horrific accident and how it nearly put an end to Hank Williams Jr.'s career. And we'll touch on a bit more of his life story and the trials and tribulations he had to endure. Hank Williams Jr.'s early life and rise to fame. Born Randall Hank Williams on May 26, 1949, in Shreveport, Louisiana, to father Hank Williams and mother Audrey, Hank Jr. was immersed in the musical world from day one. His dad was a 25-year-old country music star, experiencing tremendous success with his hit song Lovesick Blues. Hank Sr. regularly performed on the popular Shreveport-based radio program Louisiana Hayride, and he started calling his new bouncing baby boy Bocephus after a ventriloquist dummy that comedian Ron Brassfield used performing at the Grand Ole Opry. Hank Sr. sadly died in the back seat of his Cadillac en route to a show in the early hours of New Year's Day, 1953. His death was likely caused by a combo of painkillers and booze. He was only 29 years old when he left his son, who wasn't even 4, behind. Hank Jr.'s mom, Audrey, then took it upon herself to turn her darling son into a miniature version of his father. He started playing all his dad's old songs at shows when he was only 8. He was signed to his first record deal when he was 14 and earned a number 5 hit in 1964 with a cover of his father's signature tune, Long Gone Lonesome Blues. That same year, he also recorded the soundtrack for the biographical film about his dad, titled Your Cheatin' Heart. In 1966, Hank Jr. began to show the world that he, too, was a gifted songwriter with his track Standing in the Shadows of a Very Famous Man, which reached the number 5 position on the country charts that year. A few years later, in 1970, he landed his first number 1 hit song with All for the Love of Sunshine, which he recorded for the soundtrack of the Clint Eastwood flick Kelly's Heroes. He showed off his strong singing voice in the 1972 track 11 Roses, which also went to number 1, and in 1973's Rainy Night in Georgia. But things took a dark turn shortly after that, when he started struggling with drugs and alcohol like his father. Things got so bleak he even attempted to commit suicide before realizing he had to take control of his life and career to move them both forward into greener pastures. He packed his bags, left Nashville behind, and moved to the Deep South, where he called the state of Alabama his new home. In 1975, he released his album Hank Williams Jr. and Friends, which was his first honest attempt to express himself musically in a creative sense. This was the point when he started to experiment with his sound, combining his country roots with southern rock and blues, taking inspiration from groups like Lynyrd Skynyrd, the Marshall Tucker Band, and the Allman Brothers. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First for more, and stick around for more about Hank Williams Jr. The accident that almost cost him everything. On August 8, 1975, Williams Jr., who was 26 at the time, and a buddy of his went for a hike along rugged terrain not far from Ajax Lake, Montana, in search of goats. Hank unfortunately slipped and fell approximately 500 feet, smashing his head on jagged rocks as he plunged and sustaining serious injuries in the process. In 1976, he opened up about his fall in an interview where he spoke frankly about the moments right after he lost his footing. He explained that the snow he'd been walking on had shifted under his feet, which caused him to tumble down the mountain. On the way down, he says he felt his head hit a boulder and heard the thud his head made. Shockingly, he explained he didn't feel any pain because he was completely in shock. The first thing he did after reaching the ground was look at his hands. As a musician, he wanted to make sure his most valuable asset hadn't been damaged. That's when he noticed blood gushing from his head. After grabbing his face, he realized the full extent of his injuries. He tried to get up, but he couldn't, so he had to wait for his hiking partner to make his way down to him. After wrapping his face in a Williams t-shirt, his partner left his 11-year-old son with him so he could go get help. A helicopter was called in, but it was forced to land about a quarter-mile away from where the accident took place. It took the rescue crew of 6 men 6 hours to carry Williams to the helicopter before they could fly him to the nearest medical center, Missoula Community Hospital. Bocephus then underwent over 7 hours of surgery, led by a team of 5 doctors. When he woke up, he had 2 very special visitors. One was his godmother, June Carter Cash, and the other was her famous husband, Johnny. In 2015, Hank told Rolling Stone that shortly after he he opened his eyes to see Johnny and June sitting there, June put a cross on him and told him everything was going to be okay. At the time, Hank admitted he had no clue whether or not he'd sing again, let alone talk. He also didn't know what he'd look like once the bandages came off. Hank's next visitor was his mother, Audrey, who happened to be a very close friend of June Carter Cash. She had to fly in from Nashville to be by her boy's side. Audrey told the newspaper The Tennessean that month that it was a miracle Hank was alive, but she added he was young and tough and that it was God's will for him to live. Sadly, just 3 months after Hank Jr.'s accident, his mother passed away of congestive heart failure at 52. She had been facing financial difficulties, and her home had been seized by the IRS after she failed to pay taxes. But the thing that weighed heaviest on her heart was her son's accident. While heart troubles are ultimately what did her in, it's speculated that the depression she felt after Hank Jr. got hurt may have been what really killed her. While Hank Jr. was indeed tough, just as his mom said he was, so was his recovery. It took him nearly 2 years to make a full recovery, and he had to have several more surgeries. Today, he wears a full beard and sunglasses to hide his scars. In 1989, he told reporters he still had dreams about the accident and expressed his belief that he should have died. He went on to talk about how his doctor had told him he worked on numerous soldiers in Vietnam and how they looked a lot better than he did in comparison. Williams' accident was detailed in the 1983 film Living Proof, the Hank Williams Jr. story, as well as in his song All in Alabama. In 2006, he sat down and talked with CMT. When he was asked if he thought his music had changed over the years, he expressed that it's about the same, but he did say his voice sounded completely different. He attributed that change to his fall down the Montana mountainside. After recovering, Hank Jr. continued to challenge the country music establishment with his unique sound. He went on to record dozens of albums and singles, with his most recent being 2016's It's About Time. On August 12, 2020, he was selected to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. His son Shelton followed in his father and grandfather's footsteps and performs his own unique brand of music, which combines elements of country and rockabilly music with punk rock. His grandson Coleman Williams likewise performs under the name IV. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know about Hank Williams Jr.'s accident in 1975 that almost cost him his life? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.